What's up, everybody? I'm Sendai Mike. I'm a mixing engineer. I work with vocalists, and today we're going to go through this Travis Scott style vocal chain that I put together here over my own voice, of all things. Please excuse my singing. This is a little out of my range here. I'm going to just play this back so we can listen to it, and then we'll get into the actual vocal chain here.
It's absolute, yeah. I'm back with Boo. It's lit. La Ferrari. The jumper juice, yeah. We back on the road, they jumping off, no parachute, yeah. Jody in the back, she says she working on her glutes, yeah.
So that is just a snippet of Sicko Mode in the third portion, and I've done my best to record my voice in the style of Travis Scott. And before we jump into this, I think it's important to mention, that like you can spend forever trying to make your voice sound like somebody else, but the fact of the matter is every voice is different, so you'll never really get there unless you're like one of these professional impersonators or something. But before we get into the vocal chain here, let's just listen to it dry once just for shits and giggles. Turn these things off here. Yeah, let's give this a listen.
It's absolute, yeah. I'm back with Boo. It's lit. La Ferrari. The jumper juice, yeah. We back on the road, they jumping off, no parachute, yeah. Jody in the back, she says she working on her glutes, yeah.
Okay, that's enough. Pretty ridiculous. Let's get into this vocal chain. What I'm going to do is I'm going to turn everything off, and then I'm going to go through each plugin in a row so we can see exactly what's going on here. And now the first plugin on this vocal chain is Auto-Tune. It's the Antares UAD version because Ableton does not support VST3, so I'm using the UAD live version for this, and the settings are pretty quick. And if you listen to the original song, you'll hear in this portion that there's not really a lot of auto-tune artifacts, so it's fast, but you don't want it so fast that you're hearing it bend for this particular example. The next plugin
is absolute,
you can kind of hear
I'm back with Boo. It's lit. La Ferrari. Jumper juice, yeah. We back on the road.
You can kind of hear it's just smoothing out the tune just a little bit, but it's not gripping it. We're not hearing, the delivery is done in a way that we're not hearing those hard bends. The next plugin on here is the Slate Virtual Mix Rack. This is an SSL emulation, and this sort of gives the vocal this sort of analog kind of crunch. There's some distortion if you listen in the original, and it's really just I'm just overdriving a few of these bands.
It's absolute, yeah. I'm back with Boo. It's lit. La Ferrari. The jumper juice, yeah.
I guess not even overdriving, just kind of just shaping it a little bit, and then using this plugin is like a high-end lift EQ, and I'm recording for this example. I recorded this on this microphone off the SM7B, and it's a pretty dark mic, so it's nice to be able to lift the top end in the box. Now the next plugin is just a regular parametric EQ, and I've kind of just I've come to this shape just in referencing the original track. And so my goal with this sort of shape, it's not that typically would be using this style of EQ on a vocal, but because I'm trying to make my voice sound like Travis Scott here, this is what I've come to.
It's absolute, yeah. I'm back with Boo. It's lit. La Ferrari. The jumper juice, yeah. We back on the road, they jumping off.
So you can hear it's just really taking out the lows, making the vocal sound a lot brighter. And I don't like to high pass too high. I like to leave the low information in there just because it's more to work with, but I will duck it pretty quiet. And then the next thing going on here is some compression. And for this style of thing, Mike Dean, he's compressed the shit out of everything on everything that Travis Scott has ever recorded. And so that's what this is doing. It's just smashing.
I'm back with Boo. It's lit. La Ferrari. The jumper juice, yeah. We back on the road.
They're just smashing the shit out of the vocal. There's no detailed work there with the attack or release or anything. I'm just crushing it as hard as I can, and I like the CL1B. I like the tone of it. It's and the R comp is just a pretty smooth compressor. You can get away with just really slamming down on things, and for this vocal that seemed to be the move to make, just listening to the reference. Then I've got a de-esser on here. Whether or not that needs to come earlier or later, it doesn't really matter. I'm just trying to get this sound the way it sounded. And if I were to spend more time on this, I'd probably be de-essing Maybe earlier, maybe later as well. The next plugin here is the Playback. The Playback is a wonderful sounding EQ.
It's absolute, yeah. I'm back with Boo. This is La Ferrari. The Jamba Juice, yeah.
So you can really hear that analog crunchy sort of warmth come out after I turn this on. And there's a few things going on here. I'm just blasting it at 700 hertz. Because it sounds like in the original that there's some mid-band boost on an analog compressor. That's what it sounds like to me. Who knows? I just, this is, again, these EQ moves and stuff that I'm doing are not typical of what I would do for mixing a vocal, but because I'm trying to make my voice sound like a, how many ever fucking... my voice isn't Travis Scott's voice, so I have to do these zany things to make it sound like it, and these aren't typical, so don't copy these settings by any means.
It's absolute, yeah, I'm back with Boo. This is La Ferrari, the Jamba Juice, yeah, we back on the...
And this is a really cool EQ because it's got, you basically can boost and attenuate the same frequency, and because the attenuation has a different resonance, you can get some really interesting sort of tones, and like boosting here and then bringing it back a little bit is going to be different than boosting this value minus this value. It's a different sound, so it's really interesting to play with. It took me a while to wrap my head around, but now I just love using this. Then I think I slapped the 1176 on there. It's just kind of catching the peaks.
Yeah, I'm back with Boo. This is La Ferrari, the Jamba Juice, yeah. We back on the road, they jumping off no parachute, yeah.
And that's just catching the peaks. It's just kind of thickening up the whole vocal. And then I've got, please don't judge me, I've got a multi-band compressor here that's just doing all sorts of zany shit.
It's absolute, yeah, I'm back with Boo. This is La Ferrari, the Jamba Juice, yeah. We back on the road, they jumping off no...
Why is this like this? Well, again, I would never treat a vocal that somebody gave me as a client with this sort of thing going on. I'm not even sure what I was thinking, but I do know that with it on, it just sounds a little closer to the reference, and that's what we're going for. Because I've already rolled off some of the highs, this is sort of...
It's absolute, yeah, I'm back with Boo. This is La Ferrari.
Yeah, I don't even know. I don't even want to talk about that, honestly. I just know that it's getting us a little closer to the reference, and that's about it. Then there's a little reverb on here. The reverb on the vocal.
It's absolute, yeah. I'm back with Boo. This is La Ferrari, the Jamba Juice, yeah.
The reverb is just it's like a short slap back with the Echo Boy running into a pretty short room in Valhalla, and then kind of mid-band EQ. And that's just to kind of give the vocal a little bit of space, a little bit of width, but not too much, because the original vocal, if you listen to it, it sounds pretty dry. The ad-libs, on the other hand, are very wet.
Yeah, I'm back with Boo. This is La Ferrari.
Man, my computer screen recording does not like playing this back while recording, so you're hearing some crunching maybe.
Yeah, we back on the road, they jumping off.
But yeah, the ad-libs are pretty wet. Same sort of thing going on the ad-libs. And that's one, if you want to do Travis Scott style ad-libs, it's not really a mixing thing. It's really, you got to just screech into the auto-tune until you get it right. And I'm a far cry from actually sounding like it here, but it's close enough for the demo. I'm going to play this one more time here all the way through.
It's absolute, yeah, I'm back with Boo. This is La Ferrari, the Jamba Juice, yeah. We back on the road, they jumping off no parachute, yeah. Jordy in the back, she says she working on her glutes, yeah.
And one more time dry, just for the laughs.
It's absolute, yeah, I'm back with Boo. La Ferrari, the Jamba Juice, yeah. We back on the road, they jumping off no parachute, yeah. Jordy in the back, she says she working on her glutes, yeah.
Okay. And that's about it. If you have any questions about this vocal chain, this is not a typical vocal chain for me. This is kind of some weird shit going on here. But if you'd like to see me attempt to mix in the style of any other artist, I'd love to hear from you. Let me know in the comments. If you have any questions about why I was doing anything, I may be able to answer that, or it might be just fucking random, man. I'm just in here playing with sounds. Yep. Thanks for watching. catch you next time. I hope to be doing more of these in the future. Peace.